Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Lord, there is one more thing to report to your subordinates. At this time, Wei Gang continued. What's the matter? Lin You looked at Wei Gang. It's about these refugees. The number of refugees coming from Futaba city has already exceeded 500. Manager Shui told me. We don't seem to have enough food. Manager Shui is the name given to Shui Changgue by the people. After all, Huangsha City is now under the jurisdiction of Lin You. Naturally, Shui Changgue did not dare to call himself the city owner, so he became the general manager of Huangsha City, responsible for all matters in Huangsha City. Since he has already said that there is a shortage of food, it must have reached a very serious level. If it was the previous one, Lin You really didn't know how to resolve this matter. But now. Lin You glanced at Lingxi dancing beside him, a confident smile gradually appeared on his face. Okay, you can bring them in first, I will solve the food problem. Yes. Wei Gang didn't dare to say anything more. With a response, he brought the group of refugees into Huangsha City, ready to resettle. Lin You, on the other hand, asked the plants around him to return to the territory first. Then he took Lingxi to the farmland outside the city. After half a month of cultivation and management, the scale of the farmland has expanded by more than 5 times. Looking around, there are all growing wheat fields, pumpkin fields, and potatoes, and the rally is not bad. Especially the first batch of seeds planted. It has basically taken shape, and it is almost mature. But even so, I am afraid it will take half a month to harvest this batch of crops. He can afford it, but the citizens can't afford it, so Lin You looked directly at Lingxi beside him. Lingxi, I'll leave it to you. Lingxi, who has awakened the power of domination, has reached a terrifying level of control over plants. It is no problem to deal with these common crops. Hearing Lin Yu's words, it immediately lifted off slowly and flew over the cultivated field, waving the staff in its hand at the same time. Wherever he goes, there will be patches of fluorescent light that fall on the cultivated land. After a while, the crops below began to rise rapidly, dyeing a golden yellow. In a blink of an eye, the crops that were planted first were basically mature, and the peasants on the side were so shocked that they ran out of their fields one after another. Lord, what happened? When those peasants found Lin You, they gathered in a panic, thinking that something had changed. It's alright, I just want these crops to mature quickly. You go and inform Director Shui and let him arrange for someone to come and collect the grain. Oh, okay, we'll go to inform Director Shui right away. When these territorial people heard that it was Lin Yu's handwriting, they were overjoyed. After responding again and again, he hurried back to Huangsha City to find Shui Changgue. After a while, Lingxi, who flew in a circle above the cultivated field, flew back to Lin Yu's side again, looking a little sluggish. Thanks a lot. Lin You said softly. It seems that even for Lingxi, catalyzing so many plants at one time is a very exhausting matter of mind and nature. Fortunately, this catalysis is just for emergency. When the subsequent grain production gradually catches up, she doesn't need to make another move. Thinking of this, Lin You brought Lingxi back to the territory and asked her to stay in the territory to rest. Then it didn't take long. Under the leadership of Shui Changgue, the colonists rushed to the arable land and began to harvest the crops that had just matured. Even those refugees who had just been settled properly joined the queue. The whole farmland was lively. Okay, let's continue recruiting troops. Lin You no longer paid attention to things on the farmland. With the 4,000 magic energy he had just obtained, he came under the tree of life and began to recruit troops. Lin You took a cursory look. He now has 10 Mu Yinglong, Mu Rancher, and Muir turtles in his territory. There is no need to expand the land army in a short period of time. Therefore, they still recruited the Earth Spirit and began to mutate. The mutation of the 6th Order troops needs to consume 250 points of mana. Do you want to continue? Continue. As Lin Yu's voice fell, Dada Yuan Ling, who had just been recruited in front of him, was immediately enveloped in a ray of light, and his body changed rapidly. After a while, a strange watermelon with facial features and limbs gradually revealed its shape. Unexpectedly, it was a good start for the first time. Mutates a mutant plant that is the same as the fear pumpkin. Watermelon, it's a good thing. Lin You checked the properties of the watermelon, and sure enough, just like the fear pumpkin, it can be sown, which made him a little overjoyed. If he wanted to eat in this dry and hot environment, it would be watermelon. After reading the properties of the mutant watermelon, he immediately let the mutant watermelon plant a piece of watermelon seed on the open space at the edge of the territory. With the addition of the wheat, pumpkin, and potatoes that were planted before, the planting estate in the territory expanded a lot. Before long, he will be able to own a private manor of his own, and he still has a certain sense of accomplishment in his heart. Next, Lin You continued to use the remaining magical energy to mutate plants. This time I was lucky, with 8 mutations and 6 combat arms, and the number of troops above the 6th rank has reached 73 at once, and he finally has a good combat power. It's also time to explore the situation in Futaba City. Lin You looked at the large number of troops in front of him and fell into deep thought. As the saying goes, knowing oneself and knowing the enemy can be invincible. As Futaba City is the closest city to him, it is better to inquire about the situation. Moreover, he now also has the first 7th Order troop. www.lightnovel.com no longer need to be afraid of anything, just to get to know the surrounding environment, and it would be great to dig some people to come back by the way. Thinking of this, Lin You closed the recruitment interface and began to prepare in the territory. Early the next morning, Lin You brought the 10 fastest wooden lions, 10 wooden shadow dragons, and the demon king Lingxi mushroom to the outside of the territory. After all, it's just to investigate the situation, you don't need to bring too many troops. And next to him was Wei Gang, who was in charge of leading the way. Lin You directly asked him to ride on the back of one of the Muran lions and move with him, which would be faster. Okay, let's go. Following Lin Yu's order, the entire team set off. With the sound of rumbling footsteps, he ran quickly towards the east. Wei Gang, who was a little afraid of Mu Rancher at first, was so frightened that he clutched at the protruding branch on Mu Rancher's back, his face full of surprise. But right away, he recalled his responsibilities and gave Lin You the way. Lord, you will see a big road when you cross this mountain forest. Just follow the road and you will reach Futaba City. Okay, let's speed up and try to arrive within an hour. The speed of Mu Rancher can be much faster than their running speed. If you don't consider the terrain and obstacles encountered on the way, the distance is less than 100 kilometers, and it doesn't take much time at all. Of course, if you encounter any monsters or the like on the road, Lin You still doesn't mind getting rid of the magic energy by the way. That's it, a group of 2 people, plus more than 20 types of troops. Under the watchful eyes of the residents of Huangsha City, they gradually disappeared into the mountains and forests in the distance. Lord, there is Futaba Castle there. More than an hour later, Lin You and the others finally passed through the forest and came to the vicinity of a huge city. Is this Futaba Castle? Lin You hid in the forest and looked out through the bushes, and sure enough, he saw a city gate standing at the end of the avenue, with 3 gilded characters Xuanyeching hanging high above the city gate. But what was different from what Lin You imagined was that the Futaba city at this time looked very dilapidated. Although it is much grander than Huangsha City, it seems like it has just suffered extensive damage. Not only did most of the city walls collapse, but even the roads were full of potholes, and there were signs of battles everywhere. Through the city gate, you can still see a large area of destroyed houses and buildings, all of which have been turned into ruins, which is simply terrible. These were all destroyed during the battle between the old city lord and the new lord. It may take a long time to rebuild. Wei Gang, who was beside him, explained in time. It seems that the situation in Futaba City is much more miserable than Lin You imagined. And it seems that because of the recent civil unrest, the guards are very strict. Just outside the city gate, you can see a lot of cultivators, and it may not be easy to get in. Although Lin You can force his way through with Lingxi, he is only tier 6 himself, and once he is besieged, he is still a little bit unbearable. So Lin You had to send a wooden shadow dragon to fly high into the sky to investigate the situation in the city. Through his contact with Mu Yinglong, he soon discovered that on the streets of the city, there were many mechanical wooden armored beasts patrolling back and forth, and many imposing figures. It should be the Lord's arms and the cultivators under him. Sure enough, as Wei Gang described, he is a lord of the mechanical department. The guards inside are stricter than outside, so it should be difficult to get in now. Lin You said in a low voice. Indeed. Wei Gang nodded. It's easy to get out and hard to get in now. I guess we can only get in when the market opens, and those villages come to go to the market. Are there any villages around? Lin You looked at Wei Gang. Yes, although there are occasional monsters around Futaba City, they are basically low-level ones and pose little threat to the village. Even if there are high-level monsters infested, they will be solved immediately by Futaba City's experts, so this generation it's relatively safe. It turned out to be so. Lin You suddenly realized. No wonder he hadn't encountered many high-level monsters along the way. It turned out that they had already been cleaned up. In addition, it was close to Futaba City. There were many sixth-order masters, and those monsters did not dare to get too close. It was estimated that they would encounter high-level monsters in more remote places. Let the wooden shadow dragon circle around the city of Futaba, after checking the basic situation in the city. Lin You then said, let's go, let's take a look around and go back after investigating the situation. It is good. Having said that, the two of them rode on Mu Rancher, circled around Shuangya City, and then drove back directly to Huangsha City. This time, the exploration of Futaba Castle. Let Lin You know clearly the gap between Huangsha City and other territories. Even if it is dilapidated, it is not comparable to Huangsha City. If you want to develop quickly, you still have to be strong enough. Only in this way can you attract more talents. So after returning to Huangsha City from Futaba City, Lin You left the territory with the plants and went to the depths of the Gobi to collect magic energy. And the next few days, he also traveled to and from various places, hunting monsters and improving his strength. It wasn't until the 5th day that he finally recruited all 120 troops. Among them, there are 30 beast-type plant legions and 80 other combat plants. The remaining 10 are his seeding team and auxiliary plants. It's finally full. It's not easy. In the territory, Lin You looked at the more than 100 troops in front of him, and he felt a sense of accomplishment in his heart. He took a look and saw that the 2 blood demon girls and Mu Yinglong who survived the escape from the area had already reached more than 400 points of experience, and it won't be long before they can reach the 7th rank like Lingxi. And after these few days of development, the number of residents in Huangsha City has doubled from more than 500 at the beginning to more than 1,000 today. The power of belief has risen to 103 points, which has improved his strength a lot. Next, it's just a matter of territorial construction. As long as the territory is built, more and more people can be attracted to come here, whether it is a citizen, a cultivator, or a businessman. Once there are more people, then his power of belief will definitely increase, and upgrading to the 7th rank is just around the corner. Thinking of this, Lin You clicked on the chat channel to check if there were any new trends recently. However, what surprised him was that the conversation topics of the lords tonight seemed to be a little different from usual. Brothers, it's time to leave again, are you all ready? Needless to say, it's been done a long time ago, just wait for noon tomorrow. I'm going to kill 10 this time. I'll take revenge for the last time. Haha, make sure you can come back alive first. Have you worked together? I am honest and trustworthy, and I will never backstab. Looking at the constantly floating news, Lin Yu's face was full of doubts, and he had no idea what these people were talking about. But vaguely, he could feel a heavy chilling atmosphere. As if something big was about to happen. Sure enough, after a while, some new lords couldn't help being curious and sent messages to ask. Guys, what are you talking about? What do you mean by the date of departure? Same question, it's only been a few days since I came here, and I'm confused. Could it be that something big is going to happen? What they asked was exactly what Lin You wanted to ask. Since someone has already spoken first, it also saves him 100 mana to send a message. And those old lords who were chatting saw their inquiry, and they also sent messages to ridicule. Haha, tremble, rookies, tomorrow is the day of collective teleportation. If you don't want to die, hurry up and improve your strength. Poor, this kind of thing happened just a few days ago. I don't know how many rookies will die there this time. I remember when I first arrived, I was so confused. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to carry it over. I guess at least half of the new lords will die. Half dead? Too conservative, at least half dead. Don't scare them, they belong to the same camp anyway, but if you count the time, the notice should be coming soon. Notice? What is that? Lin You, who had been observing the chat messages, became even more puzzled. However, before he could think about it, a voice without any emotion suddenly sounded in the minds of all the lords. Dear lords, the Battle of 10,000 Realms will open at noon tomorrow, please be prepared. At that time, all lords will be forcibly teleported to the battlefield of 10,000 Realms, which will last for 3 days. During the opening of the battlefield, all territories and affiliated territories will be protected from damage by any external force. In the battlefield, you will encounter enemies from all races in the world, as well as various treasures and territorial resources. Fight the enemy bravely, and strive to survive on the battlefield. The sudden news made all the newly arrived lords stunned. Including Lin You, all the new lords who heard the news were shocked. 10,000 worlds battlefield? What it is? And will it be forced to teleport the past 3 days? Under the doubts, Lin You quickly continued to check the chat on the channel, wanting to know more useful information. Sure enough, it didn't take long for some kind old lords to give them popular science. The battlefield of 10,000 realms is the simultaneous transmission of the universe and all realms to the same plane, killing each other and robbing resources. It will appear every 3 months for 3 days. Although we have returned to one world, we do not belong to the same continent. There are countless continents in this world, and the primitive continent is just one of them. As long as people or races are not from the primitive continent, they are all our enemies. Because once the War of 10,000 Realms is defeated, the loser will be plundered by luck, and if things go on like this, it will slowly go to ruin, so we also call it the Battle of Luck. Everyone, come on, fight for the rise and fall of our continent's luck. There were several messages, almost occupying most of the chat interface. Lin You stared solemnly, looking at every sentence above. He believes that he already knows the cruelty of this world very well. But he didn't expect that the truth was several times more cruel than he thought. The Battle of the Worlds. How terrifying is the war between tens of thousands of cosmic planes. But if you don't fight, the luck of the entire cosmos plane you are in will be plundered and eventually die. No wonder there has been a steady stream of lords sending them to the primitive continent. Lin You finally understands now, and is grateful to those who gave them popular science. Actually, you don't have to worry too much. The battlefield of the world is divided according to the level of the lord, so you will only encounter enemies of the same level. And each level of the battlefield is divided into many small areas. As long as you are lucky, you can separate the enemies from the top areas. By the way, there are rewards for killing enemies. When he said the last sentence, the lord who explained it to them did not forget to be naughty. Seeing this sentence, Lin Yu's eyes also lit up. Are there rewards for killing enemies, and this kind of benefit? Then he really needs to do more preparations this time. After all, this kind of thing only happens once every 3 months, so it can't be wasted. And improving his strength will also help him survive on the battlefield. After thinking about it, he turned off the regional channel and started to prepare in the territory. By the way, he used the production workshop to make some useful tools. The night passed quickly. As soon as the genius lit up, Lin You left the territory with the plants and hurried to the depths of the Gobi. The Battle of 10,000 Realms is only half a day away, so he has to hurry up and raise the 3 arms whose experience points have exceeded 400 to the 7th rank. For 7th orders are close by, so you should always be a little safer when facing the enemy. So soon, he rode a wooden lion to the depths of the Gobi, and directly dispatched 10 wooden shadow dragons to scout around, specifically looking for traces of monster gathering places. Under such a carpet-like search, he found a small gathering place of monsters in no time. Let's go, let's go. Lin You gave an order and immediately crushed it with 100 6th Order troops. It was an extremely mean place where the 6th Order zombies gathered. There were only more than 30 of them, and they were not the opponents of the units under Lin Yu's hands. In less than 20 minutes, they were all beaten to half by the plant army, and then the 3 plants who were almost full of experience were rewarded. After all the zombies were eliminated, a reminder sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Congratulations, you successfully destroyed the 6th Order monster gathering place, and rewarded the 6th Order territory Essence X1. Lin You hurriedly checked the experience of the 3 plants, and they basically all rose by more than 10 points. Good job, let's find the next monster gathering place. With that said, Lin You rode on the Mu Rancher and continued towards the depths of the Gobi. I have to say that 106th Order arms can help with leveling, and the efficiency is still very high. As the 6th Order monsters fell under their attack, the experience of those 3 plants continued to soar. Until most of the morning passed, one of the blood demons finally reached the full value of experience, and a prompt came. Congratulations, the Blood Enchantress meets the 7th Order upgrade requirements, and the upgrade needs to consume a 6th Order territory essence. Do you want to upgrade? Upgrade. During this time, Lin You collected 10 territorial essences in total, so there is no need to worry about consumption. At the moment when his voice fell, the Blood Enchantress was immediately enveloped by a ray of light, and her body began to change rapidly. The first thing that changed was the stamens on the top of its head, which gradually condensed vague facial features under the delicate flower buds. Then, the rhizomes around its main body also folded, wrapping around the main body, outlining a graceful and charming curve. From a distance, it looks like a shy girl waiting to be released. Coupled with the vines that are covered with thorns and dance around it constantly, it looks both graceful and terrifying, with a faintly morbid and distorted beauty. Lin You couldn't wait to check its properties. Name, Charming Banshee. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 800. Physique, 800. Agility, 633. Spirit, 770. Skills, Protection of Plants, Vine Whip, Charming Poison Mist, Banshee's Kiss. Using the power of charm, you can completely control the actions of a single enemy in a short period of time, and the duration depends on the opponent's mental strength. Introduction, one of the 3 branches of the Banshee, Withering, Charm, and Madness, good at teasing people's hearts and killing people invisibly. Complete control of the enemy. Lin You was surprised when he looked at the newly learned skills of the Charming Banshee, and his eyes widened unconsciously. This skill is much more powerful than the Charming Poison Mist. Although the Enchanting Poisonous Mist is a group range, at most it is only a hallucination. This Banshee's Kiss is different, can completely control the enemy's actions. Although it is only for a short period of time, if it is used at a critical time, it is absolutely deadly, and it can even cause enemies to turn against each other by surprise. That scene was scary, just thinking about it. It seems that this Banshee branch has strengthened the ability to charm to the extreme, increasing its own ability to control sneak attacks. In that case, the other 2 branches should be Poisonous and Blood. That's right. Lin You couldn't help but look forward to it. He didn't know which branch the other blood demon would advance into. Let's go, let's try new skills. After closing the attribute interface, Lin You immediately took this newly advanced Charming Banshee along with other plants, and continued to explore other places. It didn't take long for him to find a suitable test subject. 2 6th Order Phantom Demon Wolves. The two phantom demon wolves were chasing a prey together at this time. After finding Lin You, they were immediately attracted by the flesh and blood aura on his body, and rushed towards him with a roar. However, before they could get close, the petals on the head of the seductive banshee beside Lin You shook slightly, emitting a strange ripple. Immediately afterwards, the body of one of the phantom demon wolves trembled, and the eyeballs gradually turned pink. Then, without any warning, it slammed into the neck of the other demon wolf. Ow! The demon wolf screamed and was thrown to the ground, completely unable to understand why his companion suddenly attacked him. It struggled desperately to break free from its companion's mouth, but was bitten by its neck, and finally wailed and died. And the controlled demon wolf was pierced by a few vines that suddenly appeared in his chest, and he did not break free from the control of the seductive banshee until he died. So strong. Looking at the two dead phantom wolves, Lin You couldn't help but marvel. Although a large part of it is due to level suppression, this is too easy, and it can almost be said to be effortless. And after the 7th level, the charm banshee's attack is no longer limited to the ground, it can even spread the vines to the ground to launch a surprise attack on the enemy. Lin You tested its attack distance and found that it was 70 meters, which is definitely a terrifying length. Just imagine. The enemy had just arrived 70 meters away from him, when countless vines suddenly rushed out from under his feet. That scene was simply sour. Of course, Lin You doesn't have such a bad taste, and everything is mainly about killing the enemy. After testing the new skills of the charming banshee, he continued to go deep into the gobi with the plants, looking for 6th-order monsters everywhere. Finally, more than half an hour later, the experience of another blood enchantress reached its full value, and a warning sounded. Congratulations, the blood enchantress meets the 7th-order upgrade requirements, and the upgrade needs to consume a 6th-order territory essence. Do you want to upgrade? Upgrade. With anticipation, Lin You directly chose to upgrade. In an instant, the blood demon girl grew rapidly and turned into a highly poisonous plant similar to the alluring banshee, but covered with purple thorns. Name, Withering Banshee. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 808. Physique, 804. Agility, 625. Spirit, 766. Skills, Protection of Plants, Vine Whip, Death Poison Mist, Withering Field. Intense poison is a field of its own. Enemies within the attack range of the Withering Banshee will quickly wither their life. Introduction. One of the 3 branches of the Banshee, Withering, Charm, and Madness, poison has its own domain, unknowingly erodes the body, and eventually withers and dies. This time, the Blood Enchantress advanced into another branch of the Banshee, the Wither Banshee. As expected by Lin You, this branch has greatly strengthened the ability to use poison, and it has even reached the point of becoming its own domain. As soon as the evolution was successful, a faint purple aura spread out, covering a radius of dozens of meters. As soon as those ordinary plants on the ground touched this purple scent, they quickly withered away, as if their vitality had been pulled away. Fortunately, this poisonous field can be controlled by the withered banshee, so it will not affect him and other plants. Lin You felt it, although the strength of this field can't be lethal immediately, but like a chronic poison, it can virtually deprive vitality, erode the human body, and gradually make the enemies within the range lose their resistance. As the saying goes, the enemy is weak and I am strong. When it's almost eroded by the poison, won't he let it be slaughtered? Lin You is still very satisfied with this branch of the banshee plant. Next, only the 6th order wood shadow dragon is left. Lin You clicked on the attributes of the wooden shadow dragon and glanced at it. With 479 experience points, he had to kill 21 6th order monsters to level up. But he looked at the sky, it was almost noon, and there was not much time for him to hunt monsters. It seems that the only way to find a way is to go to the battlefield of 10,000 realms. Lin You sighed helplessly, and could only give up the plan to continue leveling. As he thought about it, since the battle of 10,000 realms is a battle of all realms, there should be no shortage of monsters. At that time, As long as you find a few more 6th order monsters to kill, the wooden shadow dragon can quickly rise to 7th order. Thinking of this, he rode on the wooden lion and hurried back towards the territory with the plants. And just as he was on his way back, an extremely loud voice suddenly sounded on the regional channel. My fellow clansmen, the War of 10,000 Realms is approaching. On behalf of the Great Wilderness Principality, I wish you all victory and a safe return. This voice appeared very suddenly. Lin You, who was on his way, was startled. He hurriedly clicked on the regional channel to check, and he saw a message hanging high on the top, wrapped in golden light. It was actually a sound transmission message. Lin You remembered that the regional channel does have a sound transmission function, but each message needs to consume a full 10,000 mana, so I have never seen anyone send it. Who is so arrogant, with 10,000 mana in one shot? Subconsciously, Lin You looked at the signature of the message. Ji Xinghe, the king of the Great Wilderness Principality. It turned out to be the case. It turned out that the king of the duchy was mobilizing before departure, and Lin You suddenly realized. And the news below also exploded, frantically emerging, because it was the first time for many of them to see the king speak in person, and some senior lords even sent messages to worship the king. After a while, the news of Ji Xinghe appeared again. The Battle of the Worlds is still as usual, ranked according to the number of enemies killed. The person with the highest ranking can get the reward I personally issued to encourage the achievement of killing the enemy. Please, all of your fellow clansmen, fight hard for the survival of the primitive continent. It is still a sound transmission message, still surrounded by golden light. Coupled with Ji Xinghe's calm voice, it has an indescribable majesty and appeal. In just 3 sentences, the spirits of the lords below were excited and their momentum was like a rainbow. The news below all turned into strive to fight. These 4 big characters were densely connected. Even Lin You. They were deeply infected by this scene, and their hearts trembled. After paying attention to the news for a while, he finally returned to the territory. At a glance, he saw Shuechangue and Wei Gang, who were already waiting outside Huangsha City, and a large group of territorial people on the side. Almost all the residents of Huangsha City ran out. The Lord is back. Seeing Lin You returning on a wooden lion, Shuechangue immediately led the people to greet him in a hurry. Why did you all come out? Lin You asked Mu Rancher to gradually slow down and stop in the middle of the crowd. At this time, Shuechangue walked out of the crowd and came to him. Lord, are you going to the battlefield of 10,000 Realms? You also know the battlefield of 10,000 Realms? Lin You looked surprised. Of course I do. Shuechangue replied respectfully, every 3 months, the lords will be teleported there. We have all seen this before. I heard that it is very dangerous there. Lord, you must be careful. Can't be without you. Shuechangue's face was full of worry. Even the surrounding people were like this, all of them looked down. After all, it was not easy for them to wait until Lin You, a virtuous and loving lord, brought such a huge change to the place where they lived, and made them live a good life. If they die in the battlefield of myriad realms like this, it will be a huge blow to them and Huangsha City. So naturally, I don't want anything to happen to Lin You. Seeing their appearance, Lin You couldn't help sighing secretly, and said with a smile, don't worry, I'll be fine. During the 3 days I'm not here, Huangsha City will be taken care of by you. Even if the Lord doesn't tell us, we will, right? The sky-shattering voice reverberated outside the entire Huangsha City, and everyone's eyes were filled with determination. When Lin You returned to the territory, it was almost noon. Glancing at the scorching sun above his head, he came under the Tree of Life and gathered all the combat troops that could move except the planting troops. Counting carefully, there are a total of 105. Among them, there are 102 6th-tier arms and 3 7th-tier arms. This is all his current strength. Afterwards, Lin You clicked on the ranking list and found that he had successfully squeezed into the top 1,000, ranking 974th. Sure enough, the 7th-tier arms are still very helpful for ranking improvement. But this also means that there are still nearly 1,000 people stronger than him, and this is just the Great Wild Country. Therefore, in this battle of 10,000 realms, you still have to be very careful. Just as he was thinking, a resounding bell rang suddenly over the entire primitive continent. The battlefield of 10,000 realms is open, and the teleportation is about to take place. Lords, please be prepared. In an instant, all the lords moved. And another reminder followed in Lin Yu's mind. The battlefield of 10,000 worlds is about to be teleported. The targets of this teleportation are lords and soldiers. Please choose the type of soldiers to carry. During the opening of the battlefield of 10,000 realms, your territory and affiliated territories will be protected from being destroyed by external forces. Only send lords and troops? Lin Yu's eyes lit up involuntarily. He knew very well that if the territory was teleported together, it would be too restrictive for him and other lords. It's good now, only he and the troops are teleporting, and the territory will be protected during the period, so there is no need to worry about it being destroyed, which is barely good news. Without hesitation, he directly chose the 105 combat arms that had just been screened out. Immediately afterwards, he and those troops were all wrapped in a beam of light. On the entire primitive continent, countless large and small beams of light appeared, and the scene was extremely spectacular. Swish! With a flash of light, Lin You only felt that the scene around him was in a trance, as if something was moving fast. Until he stood still again. The surrounding environment has changed from the territory to an endless battlefield filled with gunpowder, and the plants have also teleported over with him. Dear Lord, you have successfully reached the 6th Order Wanjia battlefield, number 006-1005. The battlefield will last for 3 days, where you will encounter enemies from all walks of life. Please pay attention to safety. During the opening of the battlefield, all lords' magical energy will be initialized. Each time a lord is killed, 1,000 points of basic magical energy will be obtained, and at the same time, the accumulated magical energy of the lord will be obtained. The battlefield kill list is opened, and the number of kills of each lord is recorded and ranked from time to time. A sound of reminders kept echoing in Lin Yu's ears, making his eyes widen. Every time you kill a lord, will you get 1,000 magic energy? And also get all the magic energy accumulated on the opponent? This is too exaggerated. You must know that killing a tier 6 monster is only 100 mana. If you are lucky enough to kill a person who has killed several lords, wouldn't it be possible to get thousands of points, or even tens of thousands of magical energy? Lin You now finally understands what those senior lords mean when they say that there are rewards for killing enemies. This is simply forcing them to kill each other. The most terrible thing is that the kill list will also be listed. It would be outrageous to let other people know who has the most magic energy. Shocked, Lin You hurriedly clicked on the battlefield to open the kill list. First place, Gore Demon Luo, Dark Abyss Realm, kills 3. Second place, Feng Wushuang, True Spirit World, kills 3. Third place, Da Satan, Magic Realm, kills 2. Fourth place, Yi Liuanian, Original World, kills 2. It only took a few minutes, and several names appeared on the list. Sure enough, as those senior lords said, there are many lords from other universes on this battlefield. Moreover, his strength is quite tyrannical, and he killed more than 2 enemies in such a short period of time. Either a few lords were unlucky to teleport together, or they were veterans of the battlefield who immediately hunted and killed the enemy as soon as they teleported. What surprised Lin You was that he even saw the primitive world where he was on the top. Although it only ranked 4th, it was enough to prove that this guy called Yi Liuanian was very strong. I don't know which country he is from. Of course, this is just the beginning of the list. As more and more lords came in, the names on the list began to change. Every few seconds, a new batch of names will be replaced, and there is not much reference value for the time being. Turn off the list. Lin You began to carefully observe the surrounding environment. The place where he is now is a barren land. At first glance, there was no end in sight. The air was still filled with a faint smell of blood and saltpeter, as if it had just experienced a war. However, he was more fortunate, he did not teleport with other people, and there was enough time for him to familiarize himself with the environment. Then Lin You found out that after coming here, all chat channels were all invalid, completely eliminating the possibility of them contacting their companions. It seems that we can only take one step at a time. With a murmur, Lin You directly let all the wooden shadow dragons fly into the air, forming a huge reconnaissance network around them. On the other hand, he sensed the surrounding movements through the spiritual connection with the wooden shadow dragon, and began to move slowly. After going on like this for about 7 or 8 minutes, Mu Yinglong, who was in charge of the investigation, suddenly sent back a message and found the trace of the enemy. All staff on alert. Lin You frozen his heart, and immediately gave orders to the plants around him. Immediately afterwards, he felt that the ground began to vibrate, and a roaring footstep was approaching rapidly towards him, and there was even a large cloud of smoke. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be an extremely large herd of rhinos. And on the back of the giant rhino, at the head, a young man with an arrogant expression was sitting, his eyes fixed on his direction. Do not know why. The moment he saw this young man, Lin You felt a deep sense of rejection uncontrollably. It was as if the two of them could not coexist. Enemies from other realms? As soon as Lin Yu's expression changed, he immediately reacted. Moreover, the aggressive appearance of the other party was obviously coming towards him. Between enemies, you don't need too many words at all. Seeing that the other party was getting closer and closer, Lin You didn't think about it anymore, and immediately let the plant spread out. Attack! In an instant, countless vines penetrated the ground and went straight to the rhinoceros group. Together with the wooden shadow dragon in the sky, they all activated their swift shadow skills one after another, turning into an afterimage and flying down. Okay? The young man riding on the back of the rhino let out a small murmur and was alert. However, before he could order the rhinos to avoid them, dense vines appeared at their feet, tying up the rhinos that were rushing ahead. Boom! The vines under the protection of plants and trees are much tougher than other units. The rhinos that were rushing in front were all thrown to the ground, splashing a large amount of smoke and dust, and the young man was also thrown off. The rhino in the back was affected, the forward pace also stopped abruptly and fell into a brief riot. Wooden shadow dragon seized the opportunity and flew down sharply, the blade on its wings slashed hard at the youth and the rhinos. Rhino armor protection. Unexpectedly, the young man suddenly reacted and shouted loudly. A khaki halo immediately appeared on those rhinos, rebounding all the attacks of the wood shadow dragon. And the young man stood beside the leading rhino, avoiding the sneak attack. Taking advantage of the gap between Mu Yinglong's relaunch, the group of rhinos quickly broke away from the vines under their feet, and then rearranged their formation and continued to charge against Lin You. However, this time he seemed to have learned to be smart and did not attack from the front. Instead, it split into 2 directions and double-teamed towards Lin You. The whole ground was shaken by the rushing footsteps of the rhinos. Roar! At this moment, the leading rhino suddenly roared up to the sky, a red light appeared, and the running speed of all the rhinos was suddenly raised. Group buff skills. It was a 7th order rhino. Lin You was surprised. No wonder the opponent dared to attack him so blatantly. It turned out that the 7th tier troops were escorting him. My own luck was really good, and I ran into such a powerful enemy at the very beginning. But immediately, the corners of his mouth suddenly turned up. The 7th tier arms are not just for you. After thinking about it, a lavender field of poisonous gas spread out around the 7th order withered banshee beside him. At the same time, the petals of the charming banshee on the other side opened. A faint wave of waves hit the 7th order rhino rushing at the forefront. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Under the strange fluctuations of the seductive banshee, the 7th order rhino, whose eyes were still red at first, suddenly shuddered, and its speed suddenly dropped, along with its gain to other rhinos, which gradually disappeared. The young man riding on the rhino's back changed his expression and finally realized that something was wrong. It's just a pity that his response was slow. At this time, the poisonous gas had already unknowingly eroded into the body of the rhinoceros, and began to deprive them of their vitality. Seventh order is still good to say, but how can those sixth order rhinos withstand the poisonous erosion of the withered banshee? After losing the gain, the momentum suddenly weakened one by one. At this time, a row of translucent walls appeared in front of them, suddenly blocking their way. The group of rhinos didn't have time to break at all, and they all collided with one another, making a muffled sound and making a mess in an instant. The young man was shocked. But before he could order to evacuate, a large piece of mushrooms and thorn had already drawn a parabola in the air and landed precisely at their feet. Boom boom. The violent explosion and the ejected spikes directly caught the rhinos by surprise. Even the young man on the rhino's back was accidentally hit on the shoulder by the spikes and fell down. The remaining plants seized the opportunity and immediately launched a frantic attack on them. In an instant, the entire ground was covered with wandering vines and protruding wooden thorns. Even if those rhinos had a thick defense, they couldn't stand such a dense attack, and fell one by one under their attack. The young man was very flustered. He got up from the ground and wanted to escape. However, without the protection of the rhino, he couldn't escape from here at all, and was entangled by the thorns of Lin You. At this moment, the seventh order rhino finally broke free and wanted to rush over to save him. But in the next second, several vines rushed out of the ground, directly piercing the young man's chest. Roar! The remaining rhinos let out an unwilling roar and died. The young man who was pierced through his chest also widened his eyes in astonishment, and finally fell to the ground unwillingly. Congratulations, you successfully killed the sixth order heteroplane lord, obtained 2000 magic energy, and the sixth order domain essence X1. Good guy, directly gave 2000 mana? It seems that this young man has already killed another lord on the way here. Now that he was killed by Lin You was cheapened in vain. This is simply profiteering. Just killing one enemy is almost equivalent to the harvest he has been busy with for hours. Who can resist such temptation? Of course, high gains also come with high risks, which Lin You still knows. After being surprised, he brought the plants to the young man's body and curiously checked it. It can be seen that the realm where this young man lives is also dominated by human beings. Although the appearance is slightly different from them, the difference is not big. The reason why there is such a feeling of mutual exclusion is probably because they come from different realms, and their fates contradict each other and are incompatible with each other. After careful inspection, there was no other gain. Lin You immediately got up and left with the plants, continued to head towards the battlefield, and started exploring nearby. Along the way, he encountered two lords from other realms one after another, and two battles took place one after another. However, these two lords did not have the 7th tier arms like the previous youth, so it was easily solved by Lin You, who contributed 2000 magic energy and 2 tier 6 territorial essences to him. All of a sudden, Lin Yu's magical energy accumulated to 4000. This speed is simply outrageous. However, as he moved forward, he found that the lords he met on the way began to become more and more dense. A few times, he even encountered 2 or 3 sixth order lords walking together, and the troops around him were more than twice as many as him. Fortunately, he had Mu Yinglong scouting at high altitudes and bypassing those difficult enemies in advance, so there was no conflict. After all, he brought so many types of troops. If you lose it on the first day, it will be very detrimental to the next action. Come on, let's go over there and take a look. Lin You was riding on the back of Mu Rancher, and suddenly found a dark forest in the distance, and immediately approached it carefully with the plants. Not for a while. They came to the outskirts of the forest and found that there was a huge skeleton walking back and forth in the forest. Monster? Lin You was surprised to see those skeletons. All of them were rank 6 skeleton generals. Isn't this just the right time to level up his wooden shadow dragon? Surprised, he immediately checked the surroundings and made sure that there were no other lords. Then he took the plants into the forest and began to clear the monsters inside, and leveled up the wooden shadow dragon whose experience was about to reach the full level. At the same time, in the battlefield of 10,000 worlds, after the Lord's teleportation was completed, battles and frictions began to appear in every corner, screaming and screaming. As long as they are not from the same realm, meeting them is killing them. The battlefield kill list is also changing wildly, ups and downs. Those who have tasted the sweetness are even more crazy looking for other lords, killing and robbing each other's magical energy. The corpses of lords and troops can be seen everywhere on the battlefield, and even the ground is stained red with blood. Finally, after the lords fought each other for half an hour, in several places on the battlefield, beams of light suddenly shot up into the sky, rushing straight into the sky. For a moment, the lords who were fighting or hiding were all attracted by this vision and stopped their movements. Those old lords who had been to the battlefield several times were even more shocked. This is battlefield treasure. Battlefield treasures have appeared. Let's go there soon. Go. Never let people from other realms grab the treasure. I heard that battlefield treasures are some very rare territorial resources. We must grab them. In exclamation www.lightnovel.com, those lords immediately turned around and hurried to the beam of light closest to them, forming a terrifying torrent on the battlefield. And, by coincidence, one of the beams of light suddenly appeared in the forest where Lin You was. What is that? Lin You, who was still destroying the skeleton general, looked at the sudden beam of light in surprise, which seemed to be not far from him. The light emitted by the beam of light actually illuminated the entire forest, making him almost unable to open his eyes. Could it be a treasure? Lin You was surprised. This exaggerated way of appearing, saying that there is no good thing, he will never believe, and immediately lead the plants to kill in the direction of the beam of light, and at the same time send a few wooden shadow dragons to fly into the air to investigate the situation ahead of time. And this time, outside the forest, there were already many lords who came from other places, all with a large number of troops. It's in this forest, let's hurry in. We're going in, too, we mustn't let other people take the lead. While speaking, the lords took the troops around them, plunged into the forest, and hurried towards the beam of light. More and more lords came, and they followed into the forest. Let the originally quiet forest suddenly become lively. But they don't know. At this time, Lin You had already come to the deepest part of the forest, where the beam of light appeared. I saw that in a clearing in the forest, a scroll emitting a dazzling light floated quietly in the air, illuminating the entire surrounding trees. Battlefield treasures. Lin Yu's spirit was shocked, and his eyes could not help but enlarge. Lin You never thought that the battlefield treasures mentioned by the lords in the regional channel would appear in front of him so suddenly. After the shock, he reacted immediately, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and rushed up to grab the scroll. I didn't have time to read more, so I immediately put it into my personal space. Then he rode on the wooden lion and ran to the outskirts of the forest without hesitation. A set of actions is smooth, without the slightest sloppiness. However, what Lin You didn't expect was that after the scroll was taken away, the light didn't disappear immediately. Instead, it gradually dissipated at an extremely slow speed, and moved with him in the forest. It's like putting a mark on him. Immediately afterwards, a hurried shout suddenly came from a distance. That light moved. Someone took the treasure. Damn, I was preempted by someone. Quick! It's over there. Everyone, run after him. Don't let him run away. The voice was getting closer and closer, and Lin Yu's face was full of anxiety. At his current speed, sooner or later, he will be surrounded by the lords who are coming. At that time, unless he throws the scroll out as a bait, he will definitely become the target of public criticism and be besieged by all the lords. No matter how strong he is, he can't be the opponent of so many lords. But he was a little unwilling to hand over the battlefield treasure, just like that. In a hurry, he had to shout at the plants around him, rush out as fast as you can. In the blink of an eye, the speed of the plants suddenly picked up again, much faster. But even so, the movement speed of the plant system is still a little slow. After a while, the lords of those speed-type units quickly caught up. It's over there. I can already see the shadow. I saw it too, as if riding a lion. The one in front, stop him and don't let him run away. I saw the surrounding lords appearing one after another, as well as a large number of troops. Lin You made a decisive decision and immediately gave an order to the plants around him, let's run separately. In the plant arms, after all, there are still some plants that are too slow to keep up with the speed of ManhwaRecap. If we continue like this, we will only be surrounded by everyone, and no one will be able to escape. Therefore, Lin You couldn't care less. As soon as the voice fell, he immediately turned his direction and left the army team. At the same time, he let ManhwaRecap activate the swift shadow skill, which turned into an afterimage and flew out, leaving the chasing lord behind in a blink of an eye. But at this time, a lord with a beast troop came in a hurry and appeared in the direction he was going. Seeing the light on him, the lord was shocked. Quick! Stop him! Without the slightest hesitation, he immediately ordered the beasts around him to pounce on Lin You, trying to block Lin Yu's path. When the other lords heard the movement here, they rushed over and finally saw Lin You, who was carrying the light of the treasure. It's him. The treasure is on him. Come on together. Kill him first. Hand over the treasure, spare you from dying. The lords shouted, and the troops around them rushed to Lin You frantically, trying to knock him down from ManhwaRecap's back. Fortunately, Lin You responded in a timely manner, and drove ManhwaRecap to jump on the tree trunk in front of him, dodging the attack from the sky, and then took advantage of the situation to jump out of the encirclement of troops. At the same time, ManhwaRecap's mouth opened. Roar! A deafening roar spread throughout the forest. The troops that surrounded them all fell into a short-lived absence. Taking advantage of this pause, Lin You finally managed to get rid of them and continued to flee outside the forest. No, he escaped, hurry up. Do you think you can escape? Follow him. The lords who reacted gave orders to their respective units and chased after them again. Lin Yu's face was extremely solemn. He could feel that the number of surrounding lords was gradually increasing. Even in the direction of his escape, many lords began to emerge, ready to intercept him. If it continues like this, the number of lords chasing him will only increase. Once he is stopped, countless lords will appear and smash him into pieces. Do you really want to hand over the treasure? Lin You frowned tightly. Seeing that another lord appeared in front of him, he immediately changed direction and rushed out to the other side. But the good thing was that, not far in front of him, a few rank 6 skeleton generals suddenly appeared, blocking his way. Wood Shadow Dragon! Lin You shouted loudly and gave orders to the wooden shadow dragon who had been following him in the sky. In the blink of an eye, all the wooden shadow dragons turned into afterimages and attacked the skeleton general in front. Click! The flames in the skeleton general's chest were instantly shattered by the ender dragon, and they all fell to the ground. At this moment, a reminder sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Congratulations, the wooden shadow dragon meets the requirements for upgrading the 7th order, and the upgrade needs to consume a 6th order territory essence. Do you want to upgrade? Upgraded. Lin You was shocked. He didn't expect that the wooden shadow dragon with the highest experience value would level up at this time. It was also this prompt that made him suddenly see the hope of escape. Who dares to hesitate, choose to upgrade directly. The next second, the wooden shadow dragon's body began to grow rapidly. From the original length of only a few meters, it has grown to nearly 20 meters. Along with the wings and tail, blood-colored roses appeared. With a flutter of wings, a gust of wind whistled past, and that huge and slender body almost covered most of the sky, looking both ferocious and terrifying. When the lords who were chasing after saw this scene, they were taken aback. What is that? How could such a monster appear here? What a strong sense of oppression. Could it be a 7th order unit? No. He wants to ride that monster and fly away. Hurry up and stop him. The exclamations of the lords came together. but before they could stop him, Lin You had already jumped up from ManhwaRecap's back and grabbed the dragon's claws. In a whistling gust of wind, he was taken off the ground by the giant dragon and quickly flew high into the sky. The speed was so fast that even those flying units couldn't catch up with him, leaving all the lords behind in a blink of an eye. Damn it! Let him run away. Looking at Lin You, who gradually disappeared from sight, the lords let out an unwilling roar, and the chasing steps gradually stopped. www.lightnovel.com. As for Lin You, with the help of the giant dragon, he successfully escaped from the forest. After flying all the way for another 7 or 8 minutes, after confirming that no one or troops were chasing after him, only then did he let the giant dragon gradually slow down and fall into a hidden valley. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he sat down on the stone beside him and gasped violently. Then he looked at himself, and the beam of light had basically dissipated, so he immediately started to gather troops scattered all over the place through spiritual contact. Fortunately, he reacted in time just now and let the plants run separately. Those lords' attention was always on him, and they didn't have time to care about his troops. When the lords were chasing him, his plants had already left the forest from the other direction. Under the leadership of the wooden shadow dragon and a vague sense of spirit, those plants also came to the valley one after another. Lin You counted it carefully, there were still 98 left, and 7 6th-tier troops were lost. Fortunately, it is still within the acceptable range. After all, the incident happened too suddenly, and it was very good to have such a result. After the rest, he also took out the treasure he just grabbed from his personal space. Taking a deep breath, he excitedly checked its properties: architectural blueprint, hero transformation pool, death drop. Architectural introduction: it is possible to convert designated arms into hero arms, awaken exclusive talents, and gain the ability to command other arms at the same time. It is only valid for arms of the 7th rank and above, and the number cannot exceed the lord level. Conversion consumption: magic energy, troop level x 10,000. Construction required: 500 stone, 250 iron ore, 250 copper ore, 2000 magic energy. Blueprint. Lin You was surprised. The scroll he grabbed was actually the architectural blueprint of a territory. Transform common units into hero units, awaken talents, and lead other plants. Doesn't this mean that even if he's not around in the future, hero troops can take other troops out to hunt monsters, even caravans, and perform missions alone? Good stuff. It's not bad that he fought so hard to grab this thing, it's really worth it. The only thing that is a bit painful is that the consumption of transformation is a bit large. A 7th tier unit requires 70,000 mana. At least a dozen or 20 lords must be killed to gather them all. And this blueprint can still be dropped. Once people know that he has the blueprint on his body, I am afraid that it will immediately attract countless people to hunt and kill. This must be careful. If it wasn't for the fact that Mu Yinglong advanced at a critical time this time, he probably wouldn't be able to escape in the end, so he could only throw the scroll out to save his life. Thinking of this, Lin You looked at the wooden shadow dragon behind him who had advanced to another form, and a message appeared in his eyes at the same time. Name: Demon Concubine Dragon. Race: Plant. Level: Level 7, 0/2500. Strength: 781. Physique: 781. Agility: 900. Spirit: 781. Skills: Swift Shadow, Super Regeneration, Rose Flurry, infused with the power of nature, frantically swinging the blood-colored roses on the body, destroying the enemies around you. Introduction: one of the advanced forms of the Wood Shadow Dragon. It is covered with blood-colored roses. Together with the Demon King Dragon, they once served as the faithful guardian of the World Tree. When the two meet, unexpected things will happen. The 7th Order Demon Concubine Dragon has not only grown several times in size, but has also become quite slender. Standing beside Lin You, he was simply a behemoth, with terrifying blood-colored roses dragging on his body. The long tail was covered with sharp barbs. Demon concubine dragon, demon king dragon. Shouldn't they be a couple? Lin You looked strangely at the introduction below the attribute. When the two meet, unexpected things will happen. Will there be cubs? It seems unlikely, after all, they are just plants. I don't know what this demon king dragon looks like and what kind of skills it has. If there is a chance in the future, he can try it. After all, she was with Yao Feilong, so she wouldn't be too weak if she thought about it. The most important is, after reaching the 7th level, they can finally take themselves to the sky. This is definitely the most exciting thing for Lin You. I didn't think much about it just now, because I was worried about escaping for my life. Looking back on it now, I only feel exciting and nervous. After all, apart from flying in a plane before, this is the first time he has flown to such a high place. If one fails to fall, it will not be fun at all. It seems that I have to get used to it in the future. Thinking of this, Lin You asked the plants to wait for him in the valley first. On the other hand, he jumped on the flat back of the demon concubine dragon and patted its neck. Let's go, let's explore the surroundings. The demon concubine Long Yan Tian responded with a scream, and then suddenly brought a gust of wind, carrying Lin You into the sky. Lin You sat on the dragon's back, looking at the smaller and smaller things below. He was hooked, and he couldn't help but grasp the branches protruding from the demon concubine dragon's back tightly with both hands. The demon concubine dragon, who had risen to the 7th rank, was nearly twice as fast as before, leaving the valley behind in a blink of an eye. Taking advantage of the air superiority, Lin You finally saw the surrounding situation clearly. In many places, faint beams of light appeared. Is constantly moving back and forth. Obviously, the competition for treasures is not over yet. But even the closest beam of light to him is dozens of kilometers away, so it must be too late to catch up now. So he gave up this plan and continued to investigate the environment around the valley, especially the forest where he was before. What surprised Lin You was that after those lords lost traces of their treasures, they actually started fighting in the forest. The whole forest was full of shouts of killing inside and outside. There were lords and troops everywhere, and it looked extremely chaotic. A few lords even followed the general direction of his escape and gradually followed him, seeing that he was only 2 or 3 kilometers away from the valley. It came just right. Lin You sneered, but did not immediately drive the demon concubine dragon back. Instead, let it turn its direction and fly to one of the lone lords closest to him, flying directly over the lord. It's the dragon just now. Chase it. The lord had been tracking Lin You everywhere, and when he saw the familiar demon concubine dragon, how could he care so much? He immediately followed up with his troops. And the troops around him are the wind element and earth element of the element system, and there are almost 100 or more in number. There are 2 wind elements of huge size, surrounded by whirlwinds, and they are even more soaring into the air, chasing behind the demon concubine dragon. Tier 7 troops? Lin You turned his head and frowned as he looked at the 2 wind elements chasing after him. Although he intentionally made Yao Feilong slow down, it is obviously impossible to catch up with the 6th order arms. It's no wonder that this guy dared to chase after him alone. Sure enough, he still has something to rely on. However, with only 2 7th tier arms, it is not so easy to keep him. Come on. Hit them down. Lin You directly gave orders to the demon concubine Long under him. The demon concubine dragon, who was still deliberately slowing down to lure the opponent, suddenly raised its speed. A roundabout suddenly turned and swept straight towards the 2 7th order wind elements, before coming to them in a blink of an eye. The roses danced wildly. Suddenly, the blood-colored roses on the demon concubine dragon danced wildly in the air, with an incomparably powerful force, shrouding the 2 wind elements at once. Snapped. One of the wind elements could not avoid it, and was hit hard by Changwei, and the whirlwind around him almost collapsed. But right away, another wind element's body quickly rotated, forming a wind blade area around him, blocking the blood-colored thorns of the demon concubine dragon, and even cutting off a lot. It's a bit of a skill. The demon concubine dragon has a super regeneration skill, But it's just that the rose is broken. www.novel.com has little effect on it. Seeing that the offensive was disintegrated, Lin You didn't want to fight, and immediately let the demon concubine dragon fly away from the place, out of the windblade area, and continue to fly towards the valley. When the lord below saw this, he thought that Lin You was no match for his troops and fled, and was overjoyed immediately. Hurry up! Don't let him escape. The person who carried the battlefield treasure was right in front of him. How could he miss such an excellent opportunity, and hurriedly chased after him excitedly with his troops. The two were one after the other, and they entered the valley after a while. It's just that the lord didn't notice. Just as he broke into the valley, a large number of vines suddenly appeared on both sides of the valley entrance, completely blocking his retreat. At the same time, the plants that had been ordered by Lin You to hide in the surrounding area also appeared and surrounded them. Not good. There is an ambush. The element lord's complexion changed greatly, and he finally woke up. Unfortunately, it was too late. Attack! Hearing Lin Yu's order, the vines and thorns all over the sky rushed out, attacking the element lord and the troops beside him. And the two seventh-order wind elements in the air were dragged by the demon concubine dragon and other wooden shadow dragons, not giving them a chance to rescue. The element lord resisted desperately, letting the earth element stand in front of him. But he soon discovered that under the attack of those vines, his earth element was as fragile as thin paper, and one by one, he was killed by the vines and wood thorns. How can it be? The element lord was shocked. His eyes followed the attack and looked into the distance. Suddenly, I found two plants with strange shapes, exuding terrifying aura, and a mini goblin flying by the side. The expressions on their faces changed wildly in an instant. Level 7. For 7th order arms. How can that be? The element lord was horrified. How could he not know that he was caught in a trap? But just when his eyes were about to split and he wanted to escape, an invisible wave had quietly enveloped him. When he saw his body trembling, his eyes gradually lost their luster and became confused. Pfft! Suddenly, the sound of flesh being penetrated sounded, accompanied by a sharp pain. The element lord widened his eyes and looked down at the vines that penetrated his chest. He opened his mouth to speak, but he could only let out a hoarse growl. In the end, his eyes darkened, and he fell to the ground with a bang. Along with his elemental units, they all disintegrated, and no one was spared. Congratulations, you successfully killed the alien lord, rewarded 5,000 points of magic energy, the essence of the 6th order territory X1. A pleasant reminder sounded. He directly rewarded Lin You with 5,000 magic energy. It seems that this guy has killed several lords before and plundered their magical energy. Unfortunately, it's his now. Lin You rolled over and jumped off the boulders in the valley, letting the plants clean up the corpses and debris on the ground, restoring the valley to its original appearance. Then, following the same method, he continued to ride the demon concubine dragon and flew away from the valley, attracting the remaining nearby lords to be besieged and killed. The whole process went smoothly. Apart from the fact that the last lord did not enter the valley because of his vigilance, and Lin You lost 3 6th order units, there were no major accidents, and Lin Yu's magical energy has also increased to more than 20,000 points. It's only half a day. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, and the lords he had tracked around had already been killed by him, Lin You simply camped in the valley and let the plants take turns to guard the entrance. In this way, it will be much safer. That night, Lin You sat beside the weak fire that was covered with things. While eating the barbecue brought through his personal space, he checked the list of kills on the battlefield. After half a day of development, the entire list has become completely different from when he first arrived, and many new names have appeared. First place, Moin, Blood Demon Realm, kills 51 enemies. Second place, Shanyuan Bali, Zenzuji, kills 49 enemies. Third place, Baitian Lai, Desolate Ancient World, kills 49. Fourth place, Xiang Xianyue, Wind and Snow Realm, kills 48. In just half a day, these guys killed about 56th order lords. The top 10 alone add up to almost 500. Counting those who were killed by other people, there are almost tens of thousands of lords who died. It is simply unimaginable. Lin You took a look at his own kills. There were exactly 10 kills, but only 1,000 or so. It was enough to see how crazy these people were and how fierce the competition was. Lin You was sure that most of these heads were provided by those battlefield treasures, otherwise it would not have risen so fast. This made him a little suspicious. Is it someone who is deliberately manipulating all this, using treasures to provoke battles between the lords? But even if this is the case, it is impossible for any lord to stop. After all, treasures and magical energy are too tempting for them. Lin You carefully read the list for a while, and temporarily wrote down the names in front of him. To be able to kill so many tier 6 lords in such a short period of time must be very powerful. If they meet, it may be a hard battle. But at the same time, it also means that these people carry a huge amount of magical energy. As long as they can successfully kill them, they will immediately become rich. I'm afraid there are already quite a few people looking at the guys at the top of the list. Forget it, let's talk about it first. Lin You finally gave up his plan to find these people. Although magical treasures are good, they are not more important than life. These people are obviously veterans of the battlefield, and there must be a lot of 7th tier troops around. Anyway, if you kill those lords on the last day, you will get the magic energy accumulated in them, so why do you need to do it so early? On this point, Lin You is still very rational. After turning off the list, and arranging the items in his personal space, he slept directly on the haystack next to the fire. Silent night. When Lin You woke up the next day, the sky outside had gradually brightened. After getting up to pack up, he took out the sauce meat given to him by the people and ate it, and then sent Mu Yinglong to investigate the surroundings. What he didn't expect was that not long after Mu Yinglong flew out, news came back that someone was approaching. Is there another lord here? Lin You put down the sauce, got up in surprise, and immediately let the plants hide around the valley. When he brought the remaining troops to the entrance of the valley, he happened to see a figure with a group of plant troops appearing not far away. The plant lord? Lin You looked at the visitor in surprise. This was the first time he had seen a plant lord other than himself on the battlefield. Taking a closer look, the man actually had dozens of dryad generals and 7 or 8 overlords, cannibals. For a plant lord, this is already a very good initial unit. How many people want to randomly get these 2 units have no chance. And when Lin You looked at the man also found Lin You in the valley. He was startled at first, and then immediately had the plants beside him. Don't get me wrong, brother, I just happened to pass by here. The lord showed half of his figure from the middle of the 2 dryad generals and smiled awkwardly at Lin You, with vigilance and surprise in his eyes. Lin You did the same. Because from the opponent, he could not feel any sense of rejection, which was completely different from when he met other realm lords. He asked in surprise, "Are you, from the primitive continent?" Who knew that just after he asked the question www.lightnovel.com, the other party immediately became surprised, "You are also from the primitive continent." While speaking, he directly broke away from the protection of the dryad general and took a few steps to the entrance of the valley, his face beaming with joy, as if he was excited to meet his companions. Lin You did not expect that he would meet people from the same world here, and he would also walk out of the valley with several troops. When the man saw him come out, he glanced at the plant troops beside him, and his smile immediately showed a kind smile. "I didn't expect to meet people from the same world here. My name is Lin You, what do you call your brother?" Lin You. Lin You replied lightly. It turned out to be the Lin You brothers. "It's a pleasure to meet you. Since everyone is from the primitive continent, are the brothers interested in working together? It's good to take care of them this way." "Oh? What kind of cooperation law?" Lin You looked curious. Lin You looked around and walked closer to the valley. He said very sincerely, "Since it's cooperation, it must be distributed according to the contribution of killing the enemy. After all, I can't take advantage of you, right? I don't know what brothers want." how's it going?" As he said that, his smile brightened a bit, and under the sunlight in the morning, he seemed extraordinarily close. But the next second, his expression turned cold. It was like a sudden heavy snowfall in the sky. Accompanying it, there were several piercing sounds, and the huge wooden thorns protruding from the bottom of Lin Yu's feet actually came straight to Lin Yu's key point. "What?" The sudden sneer made Qin Yu's grim expression suddenly change. Lin You, who was still standing in the original place, suddenly flew out and escaped his sneak attack. It was as if he had already guessed what he was thinking. At the same time, two figures quickly flew out from both sides of the valley and came to Qin Yu's side. Impressively, they were two sixth-order wood spirits that had been hidden for a long time. Seeing that his plan was revealed, Qin Yu was only shocked for a moment, and immediately turned to flee, retreating to the team of tree spirits behind him at a very fast speed. "Do you think you can still escape?" The cold voice came into Qin Yu's ears again. Not giving him a chance to escape at all, several translucent walls suddenly appeared on his escape path, completely blocking his way. Then there were a few swishing sounds, and several vines rushed out of the valley and wrapped around his body. The two wood spirits beside him wanted to help, but the more powerful Lingxi was bound with thorns and fell from the air. At the same time, a huge wooden thorn condensed in the air and swept straight towards Qin Yu. Pfft! The blood flower exploded, and Qin Yu was nailed to the wall. His wide eyes were full of disbelief. He reluctantly reached out and pointed at Lin Yu. "How did you find out?" As soon as he finished speaking, a mouthful of blood spurted out, his neck slanted to one side, and the troops behind him were wailing and dying. Lin Yu looked at his corpse and said coldly, "I found it since you first appeared." I have to say that Qin Yu's acting skills are really good, and even Lin Yu was tricked by him. But no matter how good an actor is, there will always be some omissions. From the moment the opponent saw the troops around him for the first time and his expression did not change at all, Lin Yu was already suspicious. Obviously, this Qin Yu had already secretly found out the types of troops around him, and then pretended to pass by chance. Otherwise, it is impossible to have no expression at all. Afterwards, as he expected, he suddenly attacked him and wanted to kill him, but he was very sincere. It seems that on this battlefield of 10,000 realms, even people from the same realm cannot believe it. Otherwise, I don't know how to die. In front of interests, all feelings are too cheap. Congratulations, you successfully killed the 6th Order Lord, obtained 10,000 magic energy, and the 6th Order Territory Essence X1. Just as he was thinking, a reminder sounded in Lin Yu's mind. The word different plane was not marked on it, which further confirmed his guess. But what he didn't expect was that after killing Qin Yu, he actually got 10,000 mana points directly. It seems that this guy has done such dirty things a lot. After picking up his mood, Lin Yu turned around and returned to the valley, putting everything into his personal space. It didn't take long for him to leave the valley with the plants and continue to explore on the battlefield. By the way, he looked for a group of monsters, so as to improve the experience of the troops. And as the sky gradually brightened, the lords all over the battlefield also took action one after another, and a new round of slaughter began. An aura filled the entire battlefield, much stronger than at the beginning. Until noon, those beams of light reappeared and suddenly lit up in several places on the battlefield. Battlefield treasures. Battlefield treasures appear again. Quick, let's go over there. This time we must grab the treasure first. Let's go. Let's go there too, and collect the heads by the way. For a time, almost all the lords rushed to the direction of the beam of light and rushed over quickly. Lin You carefully discovered that the number of these battlefield treasures was obviously less than yesterday. Yesterday, there were 9 in total, but today there are only 6. I don't know if it's because the number of lords has decreased, or because of other reasons. But one thing is certain, the fewer treasures, the more intense the competition and the greater the danger. Yesterday was because of luck. The battlefield treasure happened to appear not far from him. Lin You was not confident enough to steal treasures from so many lords. Even if he was able to grab it, his troops would definitely lose a lot, and the remaining 2 days would be dangerous. Of course, he wouldn't miss this great opportunity to make a fortune. He hurried to the vicinity of one of the beams of light with his troops, then hid directly in the woods beside him and hid carefully. Sure enough, it didn't take long before two lords came from afar. "Hurry up, the treasure is ahead. That light is moving. Let's hurry over there." Those two lords are obviously companions from the same realm. With no less than 86 tier troops around, the entire team looks extremely large. And the two of them ran so fast that they didn't even notice that there were nearly 100 figures in the woods ahead, staring closely at their every movement. When they finally came to the edge of the woods, countless vines suddenly swept up and swept toward them from all directions. Not good. There is an ambush. The expressions of the two changed greatly, and they immediately stopped and hid behind the troops. And the troops beside them also came directly to block those vines. "Who? Get out of here," one of the lords yelled angrily into the forest. At the same time, the harpy armies beside him waved their wings and shot out countless feathers all around, cutting off all the vines that came up. But they didn't notice. At this time, where they were, a faint pink-purple mist had already filled the air. After only a short time, the two of them and the troops around them became in a trance and their vision was blurred. Although it was only for a moment, the vines successfully broke through their protection, piercing through the bodies of more than 30 troops, leaving the two of them empty. The two who woke up just wanted to escape, but found several black shadows passing over their heads, and red mushrooms were thrown at them one by one. Boom. What dash! The violent explosion, accompanied by the screams of the two, shook the edge of the entire jungle. Without giving them a chance to fight to the death, a cactus warrior crashed down, his body spun rapidly, and he shot dense spikes all around, preventing those troops who wanted to rush to rescue. The Lord of the Harpy was the most unlucky, and was directly shot through the head by a spike, killing him on the spot. The other lord was pierced through his chest by the vines of the seductive banshee and fell to the ground. Congratulations, you successfully killed the 6th Order Heteroplane Lord, obtained 6,000 magic energy, 6th Order Territory Essence X1. Congratulations, you successfully killed the 6th Order Heteroplane Lord, obtained 4,000 points of magic energy, and the 6th Order Territory Essence X1. All of a sudden, he contributed 10,000 mana to Lin You. In addition, he had earned more than 40,000 points before, which was much faster than hunting monsters. Good job. Lin You walked out slowly from behind a big tree, and couldn't help sighing in his heart. If confronted head-on, he might not be able to easily deal with the lords of these two other realms. But sneak attacks are different. Now those lords are all focused on the treasures on the battlefield. It is the time when they are the most negligent, and it is also a good opportunity for him to hunt. After letting the plants dispose of the corpses, he began to arrange them nearby. At the same time, he finally discovered something that surprised him. After the cactus warrior killed that lord just now, he actually gained 1 experience point. Kill the lord of the same level. You can actually gain experience. This was a bit beyond Lin Yu's expectations. Is this a hidden reward after killing other realm lords? If this is the case, then what kind of monster is he looking for to level up? He can just find the lords of other realms directly, and he can also earn magic energy by the way. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.